We had some lightning storms, started a lot of fires across the landscape. More fires than what we could staff in initial attack, so a lot of fires grew fairly large over a period of time, to the point where a lot of them grew together. And we had as much as 1,500 miles of open fire line in Washington burning on the landscape at one time. We were burning as much as 150,000 acres a day on those fires.
The situation that we have right now going on across the country, and that is, I think, born of 100 years of good-intentioned, well-intentioned efforts across our landscapes. And what we find ourselves with now is people are dying in wildland fires, and we're losing homes and communities, infrastructure, and critical habitat, and we are spending gobs and gobs of money.
We know that our fire season's 70 days longer now than it was in the 80s.
We burned 2,400 homes just in the Pacific Northwest. They burned more, almost as many or perhaps more in California. All of those homes burned as a result of fire behavior that was uncharacteristic and beyond the capacity of the community to survive.
We're not going to not have fires. And the way these systems operate and the way energy moves through these natural ecosystems, fire is going to happen.
So let's ask ourselves the question, are we happy with the recent past? Are we experiencing things that we wish were different? If we're experiencing things we wish were different, then we need to propose change.
Federally, Congress passed the FLAME Act that called for a strategy, some sort of national strategy, to help us address some of those issues. And what came from that is the National Cohesive Wildland Fire Management Strategy.
The three legs of the strategy are a fire-resilient landscape, a fire-adapted community, and a safer, more effective firefighting operation.
Resiliency is the ability for an ecosystem to recover after disturbance or resist disturbance and still maintain its function and processes.
A fire-adapted community is safer for firefighters and residents. A resilient landscape often makes safer communities and safer firefighters. But no matter how well prepared the community and the landscape, firefighting is still dangerous. Safe fire response depends on sound risk assessment. We can expect a safer environment for wildland firefighters only if appropriate risk management is implemented by both agencies and firefighters.
We, as a society, have a major problem in front of us, and that's with managing fire, the budgets that we don't have available to incorporate management activities. And so, it's a gnarly problem in that it's got economic issues, it's got social political issues, it's got ecological issues, and cohesive strategy brings all of those together with the direction that's coming out of policymakers that says we collectively are looking at this as a solution.
Cohesive strategy is not a program. It is actually a strategy. It's how do we work better together to actually make a dent in some of what the conditions of our landscapes are. How do we make a dent in that? We have to get out of our business as usual thinking across our agencies and our non-governmental organizations and find ways to work together.
Cohesive strategy is really an umbrella concept that is a way of being, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of approaching our work. It's thinking like our partners. It's looking out for each other's missions, because we do have different missions, while at the same time accomplishing those common goals.
The cohesive strategy has moved to thinking that we have to deal with that community. That house is embedded in a neighborhood, that's embedded in a community, that's embedded in a landscape, and you have to treat that whole thing. The fire that comes to that community is going to result from the characteristics of that landscape. So that's the fire the community has to adapt to.
We've got a lot of really useful tools that are available to us now that can project the potential of fire. By bringing that kind of information into a community, you can have a very informed discussion about the likelihood that a fire is going to occur, the kind of consequences that might happen if it does, and the type of mitigating actions that might happen ahead of time, that would be of interest to the community to explore and potentially implement.
Treating 100 acres isn't going to solve our problem anymore, but treating 2,500 acres right around a community with that community support, knowing there's going to be some smoke in the air, knowing that we're going to make habitat better, and knowing that we're going to improve the health of the forest and that our firefighters are going to be safer, that's going to move that ball down the field a little bit farther than if we did it 100 acres at a time.
With the cohesive strategy and collaboration, forest collaboration, we have partnerships, we have shared information, we have that learning community where the individuals, whether they're private landowners or other agencies, shareholders, stakeholders, bring a common interest to our goal of restoring these systems. That's a huge change, paradigm shift, if you want to think of it that way, from where we were even 5 years ago, where individuals brought their own set of values rather than looking at it from the perspective of what we're going to need if we're going to have all values on those lands.
It's really important that one figure out how to accept some short-term risk at the same time as you're trying to manage for long-term risk. And it's really important that you programmatically align all of your activities so that they work in collaboration with each other, and you end up with the benefits that are proposed from the cohesive strategy, which is the reduction of long-term risk for landscapes, the reduction of long-term risk for communities, the reduction of long-term risk for individuals and for firefighters.
Ultimately, it comes to a level of trust. And that's where we start to really see major shifts, is when the group can come to a point where they share those same values and same beliefs. I'll even go to that point of saying when we believe the same things, it's very easy for us to work toward achieving a common objective.
But the fact is, you know, these landscapes were born in fire and developed under fire, and fire is a natural process that can't be avoided. And I think that's the message that the public at large needs to embrace and fully understand. You know, we can only delay fire from these landscapes. We can't avoid having it.
Science can bring together these kind of consequences that we might anticipate from a fire, for instance. We can explore with the community what those options are and talk with them about the types of consequences and what they see as reasonable choices to modifying their futures.
This is just the next evolution of how we're going to take care of our public lands, take care of our private lands, protect our communities and our firefighters.
I think this notion of resiliency, healthy communities, healthy forests, our ability to safely engage fire and deliberately in terms of how we take risk for what kinds of values, bringing everybody together around those concepts for me is very exciting. And I think we have a chance of that.
To watch some of these landscapes burn up is not providing for the next generation. We want clean air, we want clean water, we want to have these resources that I've grown up and enjoyed my whole life. And so we want to pass those on to the next generation. So if we can make this decision, move our management in a way that really does take all this all hands, all lands approach, so we can actually restore these systems and increase that resilience so we can have that as a part of our future land management, then we're really moving this in a long way. Yeah, it's really exciting.
The end goal for the cohesive strategy is to reduce the impacts of wildfire, not just on our landscapes, but of course in our communities and in our fire response. But there's no way that activities in one area don't impact another area. So realizing that they're all integrated and making sure that we have opportunities available across all three of those goals is where the magic happens. Hopefully in 25 years, we are in a better place, and that we as a community and as a nation are better prepared to live with fire.